All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Fat Adapted Academy, and it is Fat Adapted Athlete here, and I have a special guest on today. For those you don't know, I'm doing a new series, and what I want to do is collect a series of real inspirational stories of real people who are having great success with a ketogenic diet. People you may have not have heard of on YouTube or on the blogs, but who've had tremendous success. And tonight I've got Jessica, and she has lost over 100 pounds on a ketogenic diet. So welcome, Jessica.
Hi, it's 101. You can't forget the one.
Exactly,
See?
101.
One is important.
So Jessica, I guess, you know, we've been kind of chatting, so we're just going to kind of jump in here.
Sure.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your history, you know, through your weight journey, and then kind of what led to starting a ketogenic diet?
Sure. I was one of the typical people growing up that had problems with my weight pretty much my entire life. I was a chubby kid growing up. I think the first time I ever went on a diet, I might have been 4 or 5. I remember being very young when I was on a diet. So I struggled all through high school with my weight. I remember being overweight for pretty much my entire life. I did every diet you could possibly imagine, trying to keep my weight down, trying to figure out why this was such a struggle for me and why it didn't appear to be a struggle for so many other people. I actually went to the military after high school, and the military has a pretty strict standard of weight, and so I did a bunch of things in the military and got down to what probably is a normal weight for me. But I spent about 6 years in the Army, and I remember eating, you know, horribly unhealthy and trying to keep my weight down, and that worked for a while until it didn't work any longer. And once I got out of the military, it all kind of came back, and I kind of went loose on the whole diet. And within the few years after getting out of the military, I actually had gained 100 and some plus pounds. My highest weight was about 294. The biggest I ever got, basically, that I know about, that I actually weighed. At that point, I kept gaining and gaining and gaining. I got married. I had a son who has special needs. I didn't take care of myself. I had decided that I was kind of destined to be overweight, and that was just my journey, and I was just going to be an overweight person, and that's just the end of it. Kind of given up on the whole thing. So when you get to about 294 pounds, I was looking at weight loss surgery. I was looking at all the other things that you might consider doing when you get to that weight. So that was pre-keto, and that's what happened, what led me basically to finding this way of eating.
And you stopped weighing yourself, so it kind of like me. The last weight I recorded for me was like 240, maybe 245, but
right.
I mean, who knows? I could have hit 250, and it's likely you were probably right around that 300 range.
Yeah, I never saw the 3, but I'm sure it was there at some point.
Right, right. Okay, so what are some of the things that you tried before?
So the cabbage soup diet, that one was fun. I did Jenny Craig, that has the meals that you make and you cook them, and that's a lot of fun. Let me tell you about that one. I've done alternate day fasting diets. I did the best one I ever did, and by best I mean the worst. I did HCG, which puts you on a 500-calorie restricted diet, and you take homeopathic drops, and so you spend a month eating 500 calories a day. And that was great until I lost about half of my hair. I lost 30 pounds, which I immediately gained back and more in the following 40-some days. Literally every single possible diet you can think of, I've done. All fruit. I did a juicing diet one time, and that made me pretty sick. I debated becoming a vegetarian. Literally every single possible thing, and still not understanding the reasoning behind why it's like this and why it's so hard and why I'm not responding to these. Lots of time struggling. I mean, lots of time feeling like you're starving and you're hallucinating with 500 calories a day and deciding that, you know, yeah, I mean, do 500 calories a day for 31 days and tell me how you feel at the end of it. And then thinking, is this how people get thin? I mean, is this what you have to do to get thin? Because maybe I don't want it. I mean, maybe if that's what it takes, then maybe I am just supposed to be fat, I guess. So that's where you're left after all of that, you know, trial that you go through.
So how'd you stumble upon keto?
I think, I thought about this, and it's been about 2 years at this point, and I thought about this, and I'm certain I stumbled upon keto on Reddit, which is really weird because I'm not a Redditor. I don't even have a Reddit account, but I have read so much keto stuff on Reddit that you would think that I am like the most active. I like know the users on there. It's really weird, but it's public. So I found keto on our keto, which is on Reddit, and I read the index there and the fact that they have on there. And for some reason, all of the sources down there at the bottom led me to reading that several times, and then it led me to Gary Taubes and all of his books, which led me to Good Calories, Bad Calories, which led me to How We Get Fat. And I started watching YouTube presentations, and it was kind of a big, giant cycle. And one of the very first books I ever read was The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, which is mentioned a lot on our Keto Right, so which is just the gold standard of science for this.
That's my Bible.
Yeah. No, it's great. And all of their lectures on YouTube, if people haven't gone on YouTube and put in Finney and Volek, it's just so much information that is free on there for you to watch. But that's how I found out about it. And I started reading all of these people on our keto, and of course looking at their food and seeing that they're eating this normal types of food and normal amounts, and these people that are losing massive amounts of weight and they're not losing their hair and they feel good. And it sort of just really appealed to me that this was kind of a normal person's way of eating, that you can do this without all of this weird gimmicky wraps and shakes and pills and 500 calories and all of this.
Okay, so you found out about keto. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. So can you kind of take us through, I don't know, you said you've been on it 2 years now, right?
About 2 years.
So maybe take us through, kind of... your first maybe 6 months. I mean, you said you have a special needs child. We can see you're working. By the way, can you tell us where you're at there and just kind of explain to us where you're at and what you do?
Yeah, about a couple of years ago, before I was keto, but I found I work for a nonprofit organization that's actually a boxing gym for people that have Parkinson's disease, and that's what we do here. We have a club for people without, but the gym that I'm in is called Rocksteady Boxing, and that's what they do here is they use what's called forced intense exercise for people that have Parkinson's, and it actually helps to delay and reverse their symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So that's where I am tonight. We had some classes, and I stayed, and I'm a little smelly, but you can't smell me. You can't smell me through the screen, I hope. So.
And you're sporting the Keto Gains tank top. Nice.
I am. I have to represent here with my people, so I don't know what this says, but one of them will tell me eventually.
I think it's keto in whatever.
I think so. I'm just wearing the shirt.
Yeah. Okay, so take us through your first 6 months, because a lot of people, it's hard to get started on a lifestyle when you've got a job and you've got not only kids but a special needs kid. You got a husband, you've got a life. Kind of take us through, how did you succeed those first 6 months?
Yeah, the first thing that I did, a lot of people will give you advice like, throw out all the carbs in your kitchen, and most people aren't able to do that. I mean, I have a husband and a son who eats carbs, and my husband's one of those annoying people that's been the exact same weight since he was in high school and eats garbage, and he doesn't have any issues, Yeah. So he's that type of person, so I'm not going to throw away his stuff. So I basically just decided that I was going to do considered clean keto, so it's meat and it's vegetables and it's fruit and it's fat, and this is what I was going to do. And I made kind of a goal for myself that I was going to do it for 30 days. I think I might have said 60, but I really meant 30. And I'm going to try this for 30 days, and I'm just going to see what happens. I had talked to a weight loss surgeon. I was considering lap band, and I was like, well, I haven't done this. I've done a lot of other things. I haven't done this, so let's do this. First month, I lost 31 or 32 pounds, which I had done on HCG, but on keto, I was eating bacon and butter and steak, and I was not hungry, and I was not hallucinating, and I felt really, really good. And it kind of, in the very beginning, at 300 pounds, it literally, melted off of me. It was no effort. It just happened. And that's when I realized not only am I losing weight for the first month eating steak and, green vegetables and that kind of stuff, but I feel good, and I feel really good, and I'm clear-headed, and I have energy now for the absolute first time in years. I can't remember having as much energy as I had for the first 30 days of removing carbs, which is funny, usually people say the exact opposite. You're going to remove carbs and you're going to lose all your energy. And I had the exact opposite experience. I was depressed and demotivated. And all of a sudden I wanted to do stuff, and I wanted to research this, and I wanted to read more about it. So the first 30 days I lost 30 pounds. And that was really without tracking and without really paying attention to all of that stuff. I'm sure my calorie intake was decreased in half, but I was full all the time. I had no roller coaster of needing to eat food, and all of these changes kind of happened to me in the first 30 days, and I almost didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, it was so just liberating. The entire thing was just an amazing experience. So after that, you lose all this weight when you're very large. You lose all of this weight effortlessly in the beginning, and then it becomes more of a grind as you go on, and you really fight more so. The less you weigh, you're going to fight more. So it took a little bit more as I went on in the next couple of months, and now within 2 years, it takes a little bit more and a little more effort to plan out what I'm going to eat and that kind of thing. But I had no desire to cheat. I blew right through the holidays. I had started, which is dumb or brilliant. I mean, it's one of the two. I started right before, like a Thanksgiving holiday, and I was like, usually when you go to holidays, you go and you gorge and you feel sick and you eat all this stuff that you wouldn't normally eat. And I didn't have any desire to do any of that. I went to Thanksgiving and I ate turkey, and I think I had some green beans and something else, and felt great. Didn't feel sick, didn't have any desire to do any of that. And so I just kept going right on through the holidays, and started really tracking it, and started really seeing all of the motivation, all the changes that kept happening to me. You're very motivating when you're that size, and you're not starving, and that's the biggest thing. I've never been starving. I haven't been hungry in 2 years. I mean, not really. So.
Well, that's awesome. So you've been on this for 2 years, and it sounds like you stayed pretty consistent. Do you carb up, or are you strict keto?
I don't do any carb ups. I have been, for the past 6 months or so, been experimenting with a targeted ketogenic protocol where you consume a small amount of carbohydrate right before lifting. I actually am training to be a competitive amateur boxer right now. So if you think about the type of movements and the type of energy that's required for that, I can do all of that actually fairly well without any carbs, believe it or not. Electrolyte intake for me is more important than the carbs, but I didn't do any of that until I was almost 80 or 85 pounds down. So I think most people, when you have a lot of weight to lose, you don't need to mess with any of those things just yet. You don't need all of that. Still have a lot of body fat that needs to go first. So I don't do any carb ups. I don't do any planned cheat days. Those don't work for me. It's a big, giant, controversial topic in probably all dieting circles, I suppose. I don't do any of those. My body doesn't like sugar, and it just doesn't like that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to eat one Pop-Tart. I'm probably going to eat 20 Pop-Tarts. That's just the kind of personality that I seem to have. So I try really hard to not do any intentional cheats. They just don't work very well for me. So what works better for me is if I want to cheat, I'm going to have, more macadamia nuts than I probably should have. Those little bastards are very caloric, very calorie dense, the macadamia nuts, but those are my favorite. So that's the kind of cheating that I do nowadays. I can go through Easter and not want to eat 5 Cadbury eggs in a row. And that, when you spend a lifetime overeating and consuming that amount of sugar, is a big deal. It's a big deal for someone like me.
So what are your goals coming up?
Yeah, I'm still, I've lost 101 pounds. The one is important at this point. I'm training to actually compete, I think. So that's exciting. But I joined at the advice of the Keto Gains group. Actually, there's an admin in there who encouraged me to join a powerlifting facility, basically. So I had no weightlifting experience really before, and he kind of encouraged me to actually go and look into that. And finally, I'm 33 years old, and finally I've stopped chasing being skinny, and I'm trying to be strong, and I want to be athletic, and I want to feel good, and I'm no longer worried about being skinny. So I joined this powerlifting facility. So the boxing I'm still doing. but they're doing some sort of hybrid powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting right now. So my goals right now is to get strong instead of being skinny, and it's a big release when you stop chasing being skinny.
You know, that's really awesome, and fat adaptation is something that I get really excited about, which is why I named my channel Fat Adapted Athlete, because originally I found keto because I wanted to do kind of what you're saying. You're going to do long boxing bouts, and you can do it all on ketones and the stores of body fat that you have. And I wanted to do the same thing in running a 50K. I wanted to be able to tap into these. You know, for years I walked around with this almost like a backpack, but it was on my stomach, of energy. And I could never access that, so I always had to top off the tank and never got to access that tank. So it excites me when I hear about athletes like yourself who are using keto to compete and fuel yourself.
Yeah, and what I find is I don't run out of energy like the other people that are boxing right next to me. They're worried about, you know, their bananas beforehand and what are we going to fuel up with, and I'm sitting here going, I'm good. I'm good. Just, you know, it's fine. So it's really funny how all of that changes. You're not a slave to all of these nutrition things that they've been telling you forever, that you have to do this and you have to carb up, you know, 40 minutes prior to the whole thing. And no, when your body's not relying on any of that, it's amazing. It totally changes everything. So I've got plenty of fat to fuel on. I'm still about 30 pounds from my goal, what I think is my goal. So I'm not there yet.
That's still amazing. It's still
amazing. It's one of the things that is really important for people to know, is that it slows down, and that's a good thing, and that's okay, and it's intentional. That I lost 32 pounds the first month, and now I lose about 1 a month. But the body changes that are happening are more important. I'm gaining strength and losing weight at the same time, and you know, that's almost impossible. But it's happening, but you have to be okay with it not being an overnight process, which it won't be.
Yeah, two things you mentioned there that reminded me of something. So I'm coaching another girl who is also an endurance athlete, and she does a lot of the obstacle course racing. She's just 4'10", but she's out there competing with guys that are over 6 feet. And she does these 12-hour, 24-hour events, and while everybody else is falling out because sometimes they'll take away things that you can't have access to, so you might not have your pack, and 3 hours into it, they're falling over because they need that next snack, and she's like, you know, I'm used to fasting for 16 hours, it's no big deal. So yeah, that's right in line with what I've experienced, what I'm hearing from other people for athletic performance. But could you mention that a little bit, or maybe explain a little bit more about a body recomp? And I want to mention something. I'm going to link an article on here. Joanne, who's one of the admins on Keto Games, has a great little article she wrote about weight loss and how you're going to experience this massive weight loss in the beginning, but maybe that's 3 months, and then it might take you 6 months to lose that same amount, and then, you know, 9 or 10 months, you know. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Right, and that's something that they don't explain to people. I mean, even in women especially are really unkind to themselves and really do think that they weigh every day. And at least now people will say, you know, don't weigh yourself every day, or if you do weigh yourself every day, you need to know that here's what's going to happen. You're not going to lose weight every day. You're not going to lose weight every week. You might even go several months without losing weight, and all of those things are normal. So when you're 294 pounds, you're probably going to lose a lot of weight just because of how big you were to begin with right up front. And then it's going to slow down, and it's going to slow down dramatically. That's okay. That's okay. Stalling is normal. Stalling is an important thing. It's teaching your body to maintain at a lower weight. So I've been 3 weeks without any loss on the scale, but my pants fit differently. I've got, you know, visible arm definition. These types of things are really important to focus on. We call them, in the groups, they call them non-scale victories, which is an NSV. So taking all of these things into consideration and not being a slave to your scale, taking pictures of your body and how it changes, taking pictures of you wearing the same shirt 3 months apart, all of these things you really need to know are much more important than the number that you're seeing on the scale, because you will go crazy with the scale. So I went 1 month where I didn't lose any weight whatsoever, zero pounds on the scale for like 12 weeks or something. And I was so pissed. I mean, I was ready. I'm killing myself in here. I'm tracking. I'm doing everything right. My macros are like straight on. Didn't lose an ounce. But you know what I did is I went from a size 14 to a size 12 in my pants. How does that happen? I mean, it's crazy. So when you don't pay attention to any of those things and you're obsessed with a scale number, I mean, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, especially if you're athletic and you're changing the shape of your body at the same time. So it's really important for women, though, especially to not be married to the scale and not let the whole scale determine everything there is about their day. We have people that get on the scale and then they want to just throw in the towel right then because they didn't lose, you know, or they gained 4 ounces or something. I mean, seriously, on the on the groups, it was like I gained 0.4 ounces, and it's like, yeah, yes. So you're gonna be okay with that. So a body recomp is demands a lot more patience than just the Biggest Loser type of show that you need all those fast results. So
yeah, I did a recomp earlier. Was it this year? Yeah, it was earlier this year, and it was 12 weeks, and I only lost 6 pounds in 12 weeks, but I gained 3 pounds of muscle, and I lost 9 pounds of fat at the same time. So looking at the scale, it looks kind of disappointing. 6 pounds, but in reality, I put on muscle and I lost fat, and so like you said, you can't just look at the scale. You've got to look at, and that's why I really have people that I help out really take progress pictures, because it's really amazing what they show. Jessica, so you're a mom and you got a special needs kid. How do you manage your diet? How do you stay on track? You know, how do you handle food? You know, do you prep your food? Do you eat out? If you do, how do you stay on track? You know, as a mom, how do you make it all work?
Right. It was harder in the beginning, as any diet change is harder in the beginning. I'm lucky to be a creature of habit, and that I like the same things. I start off every day kind of prepping my day based on my protein, and I try to hit that specific macro. For me is really important. So I start off in the beginning trying to figure out for the day what I'm going to eat. My son eats close to what I eat. Usually what I do when I'm cooking for my husband and my son is that I'll make a keto meal, and then sometimes, not always, you just add a starch in, or you just add a side of rice, or you just add something that they can have. So a lot of times what I'm eating should be pretty close to what other people are eating. We had grilled chicken and green beans last night, and they had rice along with it. I mean, it's not that difficult. So I just don't eat exactly the same thing as they do. There are lots and lots of apps out there that will help you track, that will help you learn what's in different types of food. I feel really strongly about people in the beginning at least tracking for a week or two to see what that is. People don't know how much food they eat, so especially me. When I track, sometimes I'm kind of appalled that I've had, X amount of whatever, and it's like, and then I sit there and I think, am I hungry? No, but so why am I eating right now? So if you've spent a lifetime of eating past that, it's really important to track. So even being a busy mom and having a full-time job, a couple of side jobs, a son and a husband, I have, an iPhone, and I have an app on it, and I track my intake. And it feels like I actually have a lot of control that way, and I really feel in control and understanding what I'm eating. And it actually helps me understand that I'm not hungry sometimes. When I go home tonight, I'm going to sit there and be like, I should eat something. And it's like, no, you're actually fine. You're actually not hungry. You actually don't need to eat. And so lots of people with the mindless eating, the tracking can be very helpful for them to see that you're okay. So you make it work. If you want to make it work, you'll make it work.
Yeah, I always tell people you can't improve what you don't measure. So if you're saying, hey, I'm stalled, and like you said, a stall is not 1 week. You've been at it for, maybe 6 weeks, and nothing's really happening, and your pant sizes aren't changing, you're kind of stuck. Then we go, okay, let's look at your macros. Oh, well, gee, I don't know what my macros are. I don't know what I've been eating. I've just been eating. Well, we can't really make any adjustments if we don't know what's going in. So like you said, I really would say for the first 6 months, you really need to track everything. And then once you have regular meals, like you said, I'm kind of the same as you. I can eat the same meals over and over. Once you have regular meals that kind of usually fit your macros, you can kind of rotate those out, and then at the end of the day kind of adjust and say, okay, what have I got left?
Right.
You know, what can I have? So,
right.
Jessica, a couple more things. Tips and tricks that you have for people, or advice for newbies or for moms out there. And then I wanted to end with where they can find you, all the boards that you're on Keto Gains. So, I mean, on. Notice I did that. Did you see what I did there? All the boards you're on, if there are any besides Keto Gains.
Yeah, sure.
But let's start with the tips and tricks. So there's moms out there. They're your audience right now. What advice would you give them who want to start a ketogenic diet? And any tips that you've had for success along the way?
Yeah. The first thing to do really is to find, and I mean it can be a generic low-carb eating list. So you need to understand what a carbohydrate is. I have the groups that I'm in, I'll have some people get on there, and that's the first thing they say is, okay, I'm ready to start this. This sounds great. What do I do? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to find a list of foods, and for now, you need to eat what's on that list of foods, and you need to eat nothing else. That's what you need to do. So don't even worry about tracking for the first couple days. Just don't eat any carbs. I mean, just, okay. And then, like we just talked about, the tracking for me is a big deal because there's no way to help people when you don't understand what their intake is. People are, as you just said, I mean, they're notoriously terrible at understanding how much their own intake is. So I would tell them to, you know, follow a list beginning. You don't know. The thing that I really, really, really highly suggest for new people is to stay away from all of the keto-fied desserts out there, all of the sugar-free candies. I would stay away from Atkins bars, which are really popular. I would stay away from the Russell Stovers. All of those things. People get real excited. They go to Walgreens and they see all of the sugar-free candy, and you know, it's like, oh, I love candy, and I've given it up for 4 days. And you need to break this relationship that you have with food, that you need candy at all, actually. Nobody needs candy at all. The sugar-free stuff, in my experience, for a lot of people, really bites them in the butt. It really, once you start eating that, we'll have someone that eats, you know, 1 sugar-free patty and the peppermint patties, and that leads to 4, and now we're at 6, and now it's just the same cycle over and over and over again. So sometimes people do really well on low carb until they start trying to do what they did before, only doing it keto. And that sometimes, most of the time, just doesn't work. And they say it does, and then in 4 months, they'll say, I've lost 1 pound. What am I doing wrong? Well, you need to stop eating these things. So people really don't like to hear that. They don't like to hear to stay away from those things. For most people, if they had that kind of self-control over that type of stuff, they probably wouldn't be that overweight to begin with. It's just a hard thing, and it's hard for everyone. So I recommend a whole food approach to it. You need meat and vegetables and some limited dairy and some limited, you know, fruit you can do. These are all normal things, not found in boxes and containers. You can get into that later, I think, but in the beginning, really eating and feeling and tasting and chewing these foods and not eating things out of packages seems to be really helpful for people. It makes them feel satisfied and full, like they're really getting a lot out of the diet. So these are mistakes that I see people make a lot, and that seem to really don't do them a whole lot of good.
Okay. So you're doing an awesome job with keto. You've had a great transformation. It's exciting to see you boxing and becoming an athlete. It's an amazing transformation to watch. How do people find you? Where are you at? I know you're you're an admin on a bunch of boards on Facebook. And for those who don't know what an admin is, you can kind of explain that too.
Yeah, there's Facebook. I never did make a Reddit account, which is sort of funny at this point. I still go there and I read all the stuff, even though I'm not on there. One day maybe, but on Facebook there are lots of keto groups. Some are better than others, in my opinion. After 2 years of reading all the stuff and reading all of the things, and I mean every single day for 2 years reading stories and boards. Some of them are following a more medical approach, which is just a different guidelines, and so some of them are following more of a fat loss approach. So you need to find the right group. There's a lot of keto groups on Facebook. The very first one I ever joined is called Ketogenic Women, and I'm an admin there, and that's a group for just women doing a ketogenic diet who want to talk about just in the safety of it being only women. And so that was the first group I ever joined on Facebook, and they're an amazing group of ladies on there, and I'm an admin there. I'm also an admin for a few others. Optimal Ketogenic Living is a fantastic Facebook group, OKL, and they are really super science-based. They have a lot of great recommendations from everything from supplements to breastfeeding, and they do a lot of great work. So if you're into the science aspect of it especially, and you want to read a bunch of really smart stuff from a bunch of really smart people, Optimal Ketogenic Living is on Facebook, and they're pretty great. And then obviously I'm an admin for a group called LCHF, which is just low carb, high fat, and we have about 42,000 members in that one. Yeah, so it's cool at the same time that it's really catching on, and it's getting the reputation of kind of being a fad, which is really obnoxious for a lot of us people. It's like, keto's been around for what, 100 years or something, so, but LCHF has 42,000 members, and it's growing about 1,000 a week. 1,000 a week are joining that group. So I'm there as well. We try to give only science-based recommendations. We don't do a lot of "if this works for you" type of stuff. It's a really good group to be in if you like things that are based in fact and in science, and not this special snowflake type of stuff. But there are a lot of really great groups on keto, and there's a lot of those are sister groups, and so they kind of have the same philosophy with each other. So people that get on Facebook and they join keto groups can kind of see the differences there. So it's important to read. It's important to not just take people's advice on Facebook, even though we're all on Facebook together and the other types of online forums. I think it's really important to read and to read things for yourself. Read links that people post, and read books and read websites and read things for yourself. Someone's interpretation might be totally wrong, and I've seen, I'm sure you have too, lots of really sketchy recommendations that are kind of scary, that are the same recommendations that caused me to lose half my head of hair at one point. It's like, please read your own stuff. Don't take our word for it. Don't take my word for it. Read books. Read Finney and Volek. Get on YouTube. Look at that stuff. Read some Gary Taub stuff. It might interest you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't trust the experts on YouTube. That includes me, because I'm not an expert. People are like, "Oh, you claim you're expert." I'm not claiming nothing. I'm just trying to share my journey. But and you're very active on one of the most important boards, and that is, of course, Keto Gains, where we focus on strength, athleticism, lifting, just lots of things having to do with strength and power. Yeah. So, well, Jessica, I want to thank you for being on today. And guys, if you have questions for Jessica, she does charge $5 per private message.
50.
Yeah, 50. Okay. But you can go to some of the boards she recommended on Facebook. You can join for free, and you can ask your questions there, not only from her, but from the other admins there that are experienced with ketogenic diet and with a scientific understanding. They're not going to just give you some bro science.
I love the bro science, but you shouldn't be doing it. So.
Exactly. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I think Jessica's transformation is inspirational, and keep looking out. I've got some more interviews coming up for you guys. I just feel like there's so many people that are having success that their stories need to be told. So we're going to close it out with a little flex here. And until next time, yeah, both of us. Let's go. Keep it keto, my friends.
Yeah, that's right.